Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in to what will be the final 2022-23 season first look Establish the Run show. This time for the NFL divisional round, what I consider to be the most fun weekend of football of the entire year. Final 8 teams, 4 games. Thankfully, we're going to be covering this from a DraftKings perspective. DraftKings decided, like they did last year, to make the main slate all 4 games, so multi-day throughout Saturday and Sunday with $1 million up top. Great GPP. Really, really fun that they did this once again. Very excited for this weekend. And it's just one of the best weekends of football every year. And, it's a really fun one for DFS as well. And the strategy around late swap and things like that you can get into, we'll be talking about all throughout the week on Establish the Run, on various articles, podcasts, different live shows that come later in the week. As I mentioned, do have 4 games here. I'm going to do what I did last week, which is go game by game instead of position by position. And we'll just do quick rapid fire, probably only about 15 minutes here with only the 4 games about, process as well as different plays, what stands out on a first look for the final time this year. And very excited to do so. I wanted to take a look at this weekend last year real quick before we dive in. I have this lineup here that I was, I was on Establish a Million for this weekend with Michael Leone last season, and we had flag planted Gabe Davis. And that was obviously the week that he went absolutely crazy with the 4 touchdowns. It was the famous Chiefs-Bills game. And I had a lineup to finish 10th in the main GPP that weekend, and just wanted to look at it constructionally a little bit here. What it ended up being was a skinny stack to Mahomes and Hill. Mahomes was the less owned of the 2 plays between him and Josh Allen, and then a double bring back with the Bills, and then just getting into a couple pieces from the other games. My point of showing this is, obviously you could see here, ownership, super important still, especially only on a 4-game slate. We got Gabe Davis at 7%, Mahomes at 11, Aaron Jones at only 12, Fournette at only 17. Those are really small numbers on a 4-game slate. Also, you don't have to worry too much about defense and who's it going with. We talked about things like that. But yeah, things like double stacks, triple bringbacks, triple stacks, all these different things will be in play. And, I think this weekend is going to be somewhat similar to last year's divisional round. While we don't have that necessarily that one major banger of Chiefs Bills, we do have 4 games here that all have relatively high over-unders. The lowest one is 46.5, and that's that late game Sunday between Dallas and San Francisco. Every other game is between 48.5 and 53. First game of the weekend, Jaguars-Chiefs, is a 53. However, the Chiefs are favored by 8.5 points. The Saturday night game, Giants-Eagles, 48.5. However, the Eagles are favored by 7.5 points. And then probably what we would consider maybe closest to that Chiefs-Bills game from last year will be Bills-Bengals this year, which is also a 48.5 point game, but only a 5-point spread. Bills are favored by 5 at home here in this one, in the game that we never really got to see. We didn't really get to see other than a half a quarter in week 16 there. So, really a fun slate. I'm going to go through it team by team here and talk about it, just macro stuff for quarterback before I do. I think that because of what I just said, that every single game you can make an argument for playing up. Usually I would try to limit my player pool down and, and my quarterback pool specifically. However, I really do think you can make the argument this week that almost every single starting quarterback should be in discussion of tournaments. The game I'm least interested in is that Dallas-San Francisco game, with both teams having really prolific pass rushes. It is the lowest total of the week. And I think ceiling wise, although we just saw the best ceiling games that we've seen out of Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, both of them in their first round of their playoffs, Brock Purdy having almost 38 DraftKings points, Dak Prescott having almost 40, definitely their best games of the season for both those guys. I think this game, particularly ceiling compared to the rest of these guys on this slate, literally every other single quarterback, I think is dimmed down a little bit. Now, would I rule them completely out of my MME pool? Maybe not, but I also would consider it. So anyway, let's start Jacksonville, KC. We'll start at the quarterback side of things here. This game, as I mentioned, 53.5 point total. And it makes sense because in Arrowhead, KC has gotten themselves in high scoring games all year, largely to the fact that their defense really isn't good, especially their secondary. Now, they probably still have the best offense in the league. Obviously, they have who is likely to win MVP in Patrick Mahomes. You see these insane numbers, 5,200 yards, 41 touchdowns, only 12 picks. We've seen consistently games in the 30s or high 20s for him. And this matchup with Jacksonville, I kind of like here for him as well. Jacksonville's another team that you've been able to throw on. I could definitely see this game playing up in week 10. These two teams played each other. Mahomes at 35 points. Again, coming off the bye week, they should be fresh. Now you're paying up for Mahomes to be the most expensive quarterback on the slate. I don't know what ownership is going to look like here yet. But I do think that Mahomes is a very interesting spend up cornerstone piece. I have no problem building a large portfolio of my lineups around Chief stacks. So I think that's something to consider strongly this week. And then on the other side, you have a $2,000 discount on Trevor Lawrence, who, as I mentioned, obviously what a crazy game he had last week with the 4 turnovers in the first quarter or whatever it was. And then to come back and win, did get his almost 300 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, could have had a game well over 30 points if it wasn't for those turnovers. And, in the same game with KC, in the same spot in KC, threw the ball 40 times, had 21 points. We know the ceiling is there for Trevor at $2,000 less than Mahomes. I do not mind attacking this side of the game. You could do things like I just showed you in this lineup where you can do a skinny Trevor Lawrence stack or a double Trevor Lawrence stack with 2 or 3 Chiefs on the other side of that lineup. And you're basically just playing in to the fact that Trevor Lawrence is $2,000 more and cost adjusted, he may be more optimal than Patrick Mahomes. I want plenty of both quarterbacks in this game. As you go over to running backs here, less interested in the running game on both these teams. However, 2 guys have a pretty pertinent role in the passing game as well. We saw the Jaguars really ride Trevor Etienne to get themselves back in that game last Saturday. Did have 5 yards carry on the ground. The Chargers are a bad run defense, though. This was not surprising to see this out of Etienne, but the role is really, really good. The Chiefs definitely have a better run defense where I'm more interested in attacking this passing game. However, I wouldn't rule out Etienne in all different correlation stuff, including stacks with Trevor Lawrence, 4-game slate. I'm always an advocate of running backs with their quarterback, but especially on a 4-game slate, I think it's something to consider even more. McKinnon was the guy that was a league winner for most people down the stretch. Obviously, he's weeks 14 through 17 here, 35, 34, 13, and almost 23. DraftKings points, had a ton of receiving touchdowns. In fact, had a receiving touchdown in every game from week 13 through week 18, some of them having 2. So he would be a cornerstone for me of different double and triple Mahomes stacks. 6,000 doesn't scare you away ownership wise. I don't mind that. Pacheco, on the other hand, I am less interested in. Obviously he's going to be the between the tackles running back. If they get up big, he could be the guy, but I'd rather just play into the McKinnon volume, especially on full point PPR DraftKings. Definitely more interested. So wide receiver side of things, mentioned the Chiefs being really weak in pass defense. That sets up well for Christian Kirk, who had 14 freaking targets last week. They did pay him to be their wide receiver 1. He had a nice first season in Jacksonville, over 90 catches, 1,100 yards, found the end zone 9 times. I think he's their main piece that you're investing in. Zay Jones has also been the guy with massive targets every week. And obviously they were playing from behind last week, but did find another 13 targets for him this week, did find the end zone. Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, very clearly the top 2 receiving options, while Marvin Jones will certainly be on your radar on a small slate. Has not really shown the ceiling, but I'm not ruling anything out on this small slate. Kansas City side of receivers, Juju is that wide receiver 1 for them. Obviously, Travis Kelce is their real wide receiver 1, but you know what I mean. Juju is the top receiving option. Tony, the usage still isn't there, but when he is getting routes and he is in the game, they are drawing up touches for him. Only 4,100. We know he's got a ceiling there on a 4-game slate. I have 0 issues playing into a ton of Kadarius Toney and just hope that, hey, it's playoff time. They're going to use one of the most talented receivers quite often. Hardman doesn't look like, I don't know if he's going to practice again. Didn't practice today. I just don't know if he's getting out there. I wouldn't count on it. So you got MVS again, who, gets his targets, gets a couple shots downfield, only 3,800. If you're playing into mega stacks in this game, I'd be using him plenty. And then Justin Watson also should be making player pools if Mecole Hardman does not play, as kind of a dart throw in large field tournaments, a guy that is involved in the offense. Tight end upside of things, both these guys are very interesting for sure. Travis Kelce, obviously the best tight end in football at 20 points in this matchup, 6 for 81 and a touchdown in week 10. We know what the ceiling is here. It's not a bad matchup at all. Jaguars have struggled against tight ends quite a bit. We saw Gerald Everett find the end zone last week. I made him the cover boy of this video before pricing and the slate was out, just figuring, hey, who's a guy that in tournaments might be fall through the cracks ownership wise, just because of the salary a little bit. Kelce is going to be a mainstay of a lot of lineups for me. And then Ingram, just been really a revelation in his first year in Jacksonville, making catches left and right that he would never make in New York. I'm not bitter at all. No, but credit to Doug Peterson and that Jaguars offense for figuring out how to properly use him. He's been really, really good. He's got a ceiling and a floor. Don't mind him at all. All right, going over to the second game of Saturday in division, 3 NFC East teams in the divisional round. Only the second time that's ever, I think second time it's happened since the 2002 realignment. But, we have a divisional matchup here with the Eagles and the Giants facing off. Obviously, the Giants offense clicking on all cylinders. They're as healthy as they've been, but they do come into with a really tough matchup against a great Eagles defense who was coming off a bye in Philadelphia. It's a tough spot. That said, the Giants are clicking, as I mentioned. They are as healthy as they've been. We saw Jalen Hurts have 31 points in this exact spot in week 14. They crushed the Giants. I like both sides of this coin. Daniel Jones, as I mentioned, tough spot, but they're leaning into the pass game a lot more. The pass attempts are way up. And we just know he's got such a floor with his legs that he does have these 30-point games in the bag. And now at under 6K, I have no issues going there whatsoever. So I want, both these guys, I want plenty of. I think I like investing in the Jacksonville KC game a little more, just in case this game plays a little bit gritty. But, we know there's a floor on Hurts, floor ceiling on Hurts, and a ceiling that's really nice on Daniel Jones. Saquon, he could break one at any point, still only under 8K. Tougher matchup with Philadelphia, but, they do have Linval Joseph and Sue in there now, which kind of fortified their run defense a little bit. But if there is a way you can beat Philly, it is still on the ground. So I don't have an issue with Barkley. Miles Sanders crushed the Giants in week 14, crushed them, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Vikings abandoned the run a little bit early, but Dalvin Cook had a couple nice runs against them. I have zero issues investing in Miles Sanders. Even on 4-game slates, you could take shots on the back of Matt Breida. Played a lot of snaps. You never know if he finds the end zone at 4,600. Boston Scott is a Giants killer. I don't know if they'd actually lean into it, but the guy, all he does is he lives to score touchdowns against the Giants. If you wanted to sprinkle in 1 or 2 lineups in a 150 set, I wouldn't blame you there. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, especially in double stacks with Hurts, you could certainly go there. Devonta has been the guy that has had a little bit more success, I believe, against the Giants here. But both guys are excellent plays. Little bit close in price. I still think the AJ Brown ceiling is much higher though. So I think because of that price, close in price at only $400 difference, I'd rather get some AJ Brown. The Giants, do have Adoree Jackson out there running, did a great job against Justin Jefferson. Wouldn't be surprised to see Wink Martindale's scheme up a similar style here for a matchup against this Eagles team where they're going to work to take out AJ Brown of this game, which could open up Devonta Smith a bit there. So keep all that in mind. Quez Watkins could be a tournament punt for sure at only 3,300. Giants receivers, they do have these 3 guys running their entire 3 receiver set. Isaiah Hodgins has been the revelation for this team. 8 for 105 and a touchdown. Is banged up with an ankle, but he should be fine. Was limited practice. He's certainly the number 1 guy you want there. But the Eagles do have 2 outside tough corners, so him and Slayton both have a tall task to get strong outputs here. But Richie James in the slot, I think, is a little bit better of a matchup. Didn't get it done at all this past week, was only 4 for 31, but we've seen, major targets, excuse the sirens here in New York City. We've seen major targets down the stretch for Richie James. Don't mind kind of investing in him and playing into the matchup a little bit there. He should have target volume. He's definitely a cheap wide receiver volume candidate for me once again this week. Tight ends, Goddard, certainly the guy you want. Giants have been getting crushed against tight ends, even in their revamped offense. We saw once again TJ Hawkinson, both of these last matchups crushed. Obviously, he was playing against the Giants backups in week 18, and Hurts was not 100%, but did have his 7 targets. He might be my favorite overall Eagles pass catching target. And then Bellinger is a guy, did find the end zone last week, but is certainly low floor. I'm not ruling him out on a 4-game slate. All right. Cincy Buffalo, maybe the game of the weekend, 3:00 Sunday. Finally get to see this matchup we were excited to see. It is in Buffalo, as they, did not go neutral site on this game. But both quarterbacks, obviously, I'm interested in. 40.5 point total. If this game goes over that, wouldn't at all be a surprise. You're getting a big discount on Burrow, but we know there's ceilings there for both of them. There's not much to say. I'd want plenty of both those guys. Mixon is 6,500 here. Tough matchup. Buffalo's got a really good run D. Less interested in the running backs overall here, although James Cook, I think, is very interesting at only 4,800. Did find the end zone, had 12 carries in that Buffalo game, in the Miami game. They are trusting him way more. I kind of spoke about how, hey, maybe Singletary would be the guy, the money guy, because he's their guy they trust. And no, I mean, Cook outcarried him. So, and Cook's definitely, I think, a preferred target in the pass game. So at a cheaper price, with Josh Allen, with Adam, I don't mind James Cook in any kind of lineups this week. Jamar Chase, we saw get targeted quite a bit in the first half of that first quarter, or they were sending him downfield, I should say. But, we know what Jamar Chase's ceiling is, under 8K, fantastic play. You get a $100 discount on Stephon Diggs. The Bengals defense has been playing great, but we know Diggs and Gabe Davis both in the playoffs here have had a history of success. Playoff Gabe came back out last week, 6 for 113, and the touchdown. They kept him the same price. Again, it was this divisional round against Kansas City that he had his massive output last time. T. Higgins is one of my overall favorite plays here with this price tag at only $5,800. They brought him all the way down from $6,700 to $5,800. He was the guy that had a couple catches before, the game did stop in week 16 there. I just think this is such a great play at $5,800 and he's going to fit so many different types of constructions as T. Higgins. And Tyler Boyd at only 4K should make, your player pools consistently. Prefer him in correlation in this game. But, if you need a 4K plug and play guy, for sure. Let's wait on the status of Isaiah McKenzie before we kind of talk about these other guys. But Khalil Shakir and Cole Beasley kind of split his duties. Shakir, natural target earner, it seems, had a little bit less snap percentage than Beasley, but did have 5 targets. Then Beasley was the guy that found the end zone, had a 20-yard catch or whatever. So both guys would be in play. Wouldn't play them together. Dawson Knox, Hayden Hurst. Definitely prefer Knox, who's kind of on a touchdown streak here. What is this now? Including the playoffs, he's had 5 straight games of scoring a touchdown. If there's a place you can beat Cincinnati in the air, it is with the tight end. So Knox finding a groove, high touchdown upside, don't mind him at all. And Hayden Hurst's role has been really good since returning, had another 6 targets in the wild card round. All right, capping off this slate is Dallas, San Francisco. Dallas dominated last night against Tampa Bay. This game is in San Francisco, though, a much, much tougher test against a red-hot 49ers team. Both teams have really good pass rushes, as I mentioned, which is why I'm a little bit less off the quarterbacks in this game compared to the other 6 on the slate. However, if you wanted to consider them, I wouldn't blame you, but definitely much, much prefer the other guys. You're seeing red all here as both tough matchups for both running backs. One guy I'm not concerned about that with, though, is Christian McCaffrey, who I consider to be matchup proof. Also, the role in the air is just so good. He is, living up to expectations in San Francisco. Have no issues going there. If I am to pick a Cowboys running back, it would be Tony Pollard, who also is involved in that pass game and is also much more explosive than Ezekiel Elliott, who's going to be your plotter between the tackles in a tough matchup. Elijah Mitchell should make your player pool as well. Had a receiving touchdown to salvage his value. Only 4,700 is Elijah Mitchell. Receivers, though, much friendlier on both sides here. So pass game, I think that would be the game plan for both teams, is the pass game. As my green screen falls there, it would be the pass game here. No issues going to any of these guys. CeeDee Lamb, a little bit disappointing last week. We know he still got one of the best overall roles. Debo is under 6K. I'm guessing he's going to be really popular at that price. We saw them make a point to get him involved, and that's how they win, is they want those Debo big plays. Ayuk only 5K seems like a really strong price tag for what we know the upside of Brandon Ayuk is. I mean, we're only 3 weeks separated from a 30-point outing for Ayuk. And then Gallup, Jennings, T.Y. Hilton. You could take shots on all of these guys, probably max 1 of like Hilton, Noah Brown, max 1 of Juwan Jennings, and any other punts you're taking in this game. George Kittle, Dalton Schultz, both guys that have been off to a really, really strong starts towards the end of the season into the playoffs. Kittle, not so great last week, but we saw him becoming Brock Purdy's favorite target down the stretch there, so don't mind that. And then Schultz, shout out to me, it was my flag plant on the Showdown show last night. Could have had an even bigger game, 7 for 95 and 2 touchdowns, 5 yards away from a bonus, almost a 30-point banger for Dalton Schultz, only 4,200. Maybe one of Dak's favorite targets, definitely favorite non-CeeDee Lamb target right now. So no issues going there at all. This is all to say, you can almost rule out no one on this 4-game slate. I would play ownership games and take big stands. Obviously, last year you saw me, finishing 10th there. I had a great last MME. I think I cashed 93 of 150 lineups that week. And that was because I played so much into that Chiefs Bills game. And if you feel that way about one of these games, I would encourage you to take major stance and get weird with your correlation. Do double bringbacks, triple bringbacks, single skinny stacks with multiple players on the other side. Don't worry too much about defense correlation and rules. And find your low owned plays. Obviously, we don't have ownership out yet, but these are all great ways to get different on this slate. I think it's going to be a super fun one. Really glad that it's a 4-game main slate. And check out everything we have going on and Establish the Run to dive into this with more detail as we go on this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun one. Hope you guys all had a great wildcard weekend, a lot of fun football there. And I wish you all the best of luck in the divisional round, whether it's gambling, DFS, just if your teams are playing and you're rooting. I wish you all the best of luck. Should be a really fun Saturday and Sunday. And I once again really want to thank you all for tuning in with me throughout this season on these first look shows. It's been a blast for me to get to do it, get my head in the mindset of transitioning from one slate to the other. And I hope that I've been able to provide some value to you all as well. That should do it for this season of these shows, but hopefully we'll be back next year. Regardless, once again, can't thank you all enough. Wish you the best of luck, and take care, everyone.